Hello, we are now live. Good morning po to our media partners, viewers, and listeners. Welcome po. Once again, good day. Welcome po sa ating Kapihan on the updates and new studies for COVID-19 vaccines on Janssen. Despite their busy schedules, here today are experts from our vaccine and Thermo Fisher Scientific Research and Development from Tilburg, the Netherlands. We also have Dr. Gerard Bellima, who happens to also be the Division Chief of the Infectious Disease and Adult Health Division of the Disease Prevention and Control Bureau of the Department of Health. Now, to officially start our forum, may I please recognize Dr. Gani po to present his slides on J&J. Doc Gani, magandang umaga po. Doc Gani, sorry, I think you were on mute.
Magandang umaga din, sorry. Magandang umaga din sa iyo, magandang umaga din sa ating mga media partners na kasama natin dito sa paglaban natin sa COVID-19 at saka sa pag-disseminate ng tamang information sa ating public. Okay. If we can go to the next slides. Okay. So this deck will be presented by me and Dr. Gerard. So we'll just signal each other. We hope there's a lot of information to cover. We hope to cover everything in 25 minutes so we can have time for questions. There might be a portion of the slides where we will have to rush, but nevertheless, all the information is here that the DOH team can share with the media as well. So the objectives of this is we'll be presenting the scientific landscape on booster doses, focusing mainly on J&J, and talk about protection against variants of concern. The take-home message from today's Kapihan is the heterologous boosting approach, o yung more commonly na tinatawag natin na mix and match, including the J&J vaccine booster, is effective in strengthening immune system against COVID-19 variants, including Omicron. Okay. Tapos, as have been said by other colleagues in our VEP in the vaccine expert panel, vaccination, primary doses, and booster dose are additional tools essential to our journey to a more productive new normal. If we can go to the next slide. So just a quick background, the J&J vaccine is AD26.cov2-S. And you will see this in the various slides. It's more commonly known as AD26, yung label. Okay, just for storylining purposes when you go through the slides. There's three pictures on this slide. I'm gonna go through it very quickly, right? Ito yung coronavirus dito sa so mukha siyang corona mo, crown. Kaya tawag coronavirus. It has a DNA, yeah. The DNA codes for the spike protein, yung red na nakikita mo dun diyan sa envelope ng virus. Okay? Parang tayo din may DNA na nagko-code dun sa kulay ng buhok natin, kulay ng mata, etc. etc. Ganito din yung concept na yon, nagko-code dun sa spike. So ang ginawa ng J&J vaccine, linagay niya yung spike protein DNA na yon dun sa loob ng adenovirus. Right? Yun yung delivery system. Okay? Pag kinompare mo dun sa ibang types of vaccines, merong mRNA ang delivery system, may inactivated virus yung delivery system. Ang J&J, DNA is inside the adenovirus that delivers the information to healthy cells. Okay? And then when it infects the healthy cells, it actually trains the healthy cells to make more spike spike proteins that will train the immune system. So parang training. Pag na-vaccinate ka, gagawa ka ngayon ng army na naka-ready para pag dumating na yung virus, maaabisuhan niya. So yun yung concept ng J&J vaccine. Last statement about the J&J vaccine, kakaiba siya dun sa ibang vaccines na nandun sa portfolio natin sa Pilipinas dahil siya ay one dose lang. Nung ginawa yung clinical study ng J&J, they decided that they would go, the efficacy, the vaccine efficacy during the clinical trials was high enough for just one dose. And that would actually help with the logistics kasi itong adenoviral vector vaccine, pwede mo siya i-store sa refrigerator, hindi mo kailangan ng cold chain. So mas madali sa logistics. And at that time, when we were trying to decide on logistics and planning, marami tayong gusto maabot na tao in as fast as rate as possible, vaccination rate as possible. So yung one dose instead of 2 doses to complete the primary dosing was one of the decisions, major decisions made by J&J. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So here are the 4 sections that we will present today. A paper by Tan on Pfizer boosting and J&J boosting. Heterologous versus homologous COVID-19 booster vaccination by Clemens. Present ko. Tapos yung first one, present ni Dr. Gerard. Tapos yung Monroe, yung safety and immunogenicity of 7 vaccines as a third dose, as a booster dose, na present ni Dr. Gerard. Tapos yung WHO recommendations na I will tackle, if we have time. I'm anticipating that we won't have a lot of time. So yung WHO, we will just select a couple of slides. So let's go next slide, Dr. Gerard. Okay, Dr. Gerard, you can start with the TAN.
So thank you, Dr. Gani, and good morning once again to our friends from the media. I will be presenting a set of slides from the study of Sabrina Tan. And this study referred to comparing the immune responses of boosters given to previously vaccinated individuals. So in this study looked into the different immune responses to mix and match boostering of giving J&J or Janssen or homologous vaccination for Pfizer. So the study participants for this paper are those patients or vaccinees who previously received Pfizer vaccine, and they were given booster 6 months in the average after their last dose. So you will see on the right side the levels of neutralizing antibody titers in Pfizer recipients when given Janssen booster and Pfizer booster. So you will see that the variants of interest and variants of concern were also tested against these boosters. And you will see that for J&J or Janssen boost, you will see that the peak of antibody response occur at week 4, week 4 after the giving of the booster vaccine. While for the Pfizer vaccine, the peak of the antibody response was at peak 2, and you will notice that there's a decline in the antibody titer, neutralizing antibody titer at week 4. So again, this is referring to the levels of neutralizing antibodies. For the next slide is the levels of the ratio of neutralizing antibody titers. And it's more or less similar to the previous slide. So you will see that for vaccinees, for Pfizer vaccine recipients, when given Janssen boost, the peak of neutralizing antibody titers, the ratio of which occur at week 4. While dito naman sa Pfizer booster, the peak is at week 2 and then bumaba nga po at week 4. Then another measurement of the effect of the boosters is looking into another type of titer, which is the receptor binding domain, or RBD specific antibody titers. No? So for the RBD specific antibody titers, again, you will see that at week 2, mataas pa rin yung Janssen, and at week 4 pa rin tumataas yung sa Janssen, at for Pfizer mas mataas pa rin sa week 2 at dahan-dahang bumababa at week 4. And another way of looking into the immune response is the cellular immune response component. No? So ang tinitingnan dito ay yung mga T cells, the T cells which are actively involved in killing the virus. No? Unlike the previous B cells, the antibodies, medyo passive yung kanilang pag-neutralize ng virus. But for cellular immune response, these are more of the active killing of the virus. So you will see that for Janssen, medyo similar lang siya, but a bit higher in terms of cellular immune response compared to Pfizer. So kung mababasa ninyo dito sa screen, the levels of cellular immune response at week 2 is 0.078% for the WA strain, down to 0.072 to Delta, and 0.08 to Beta strain, and a bit lower in Pfizer boosted vaccinees, no, at 0.026, 0.031, and 0.018. No? And the same also for the CD4 or CD8 cells on the right panel, where at week 2, the titer in J&J booster is higher at 0.095 down to 0.099 compared to 0.052 down to 0.043 in the Pfizer boosted vaccinees. So,
Dr. Gerard.
Yes, Doc Gani.
May pumasok lang na comment from Caroline dun sa chat. Sabi niya, pwede daw mag-request ng mas layman na explanation ng comparison ng Janssen at Pfizer booster. Is it right to say that the high level of antibodies from the Janssen vaccine last longer than Pfizer? Since pareho lang ang T-cell ng Pfizer at Janssen pero magkaiba ng antibodies, what does it mean?
Yeah. Sige, we will try to simplify this slide. I think there's a summary slide din naman to, Ma'am Yasmin. Okay, thank you, Ma'am, for raising that concern. So in short, okay, so I'll proceed first with the other way of measuring the immune response to the boosters, no, and this is using the Ecla test, no? And you will see again here that the medyo nag-peak yung antibody titers again ng Janssen booster at week 4 compared to the Pfizer, which peaked at week 2 at bumaba nga nung week 4. Then this is just another presentation again of the immune response, no? And you will see that for this specific memory cell for the coronavirus, the specific response to RBD memory B cell is comparable somehow with between Janssen and Pfizer. So almost pareho naman yung kanilang levels of response here no, at 0.391 at so I'm referring to this, no? Almost similar naman yung kanilang level of response at 0.391 for Janssen at 0.388 for Pfizer. So the overall conclusion of this study, no, is that the data was able to demonstrate that both Janssen and Pfizer, when given as a booster, will elicit almost the same antibody responses in individuals who were vaccinated at least 6 months previously with Pfizer. No? J&J and Pfizer led to similar antibody titers by week 4 following the boost immunization but exhibited different immune kinetics. So if you recall, lagi kong ine-emphasize na medyo bumaba yung titers sa Pfizer no at week 4. But if we compare the actual levels of this titer of antibodies, almost the same lang naman yung nangyari sa Pfizer at sa Janssen if you use them as boosters in these 65 individuals. No? Medyo tumaas lang ng una, nag-peak lang ng una yung level ng antibody sa Pfizer sa week 2. But pagdating ng week 4, almost the same na yung level ng antibody ng Janssen at ng booster. And another significant finding here is that the J&J led to greater increases in CD8 T-cell response than Pfizer. However, although this is the finding na medyo mas mataas yung CD8 cellular response ng Janssen, hindi pa rin nasasabi kung what will be the durability of this immune response, no? And it will still be to be determined by the researchers. Okay, so may I request na Doc Gani to proceed with the second study. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Gerard. Okay, so we'll proceed to the second study, which is by Costa Clemens. Okay, it's the paper is Randomized Immunogenicity and Safety Study of Heterologous versus Homologous COVID-19 Booster Vaccination in Previous Recipients of 2 doses of CoronaVac. So basically, yung population na to, binigyan sila ng CoronaVac. Okay, yung kanilang primary dose ay CoronaVac. Tapos, tinignan nila kung ang ibibigay kong booster dose ay yung 4 na ibang na vaccine. Yung CoronaVac ulit, so homologous yon kasi CoronaVac yung primary dose, or J&J, Pfizer, or AstraZeneca. Okay? So yun yung design. Makikita nyo dito sa design, mga 1,313 yung na-screen. Medyo busy itong slide na to, pero ang makukuha mong information dun sa schematic diagram na to is kung paano nila hinimay yung participants. Okay, so 1240 yung eventually na-include. So based on the inclusion-exclusion criteria dun sa design, tapos dinivide yon into 4. Almost equal. So makikita mo dun sa pinakahuli kasi syempre hindi naman lahat nakakatapos. So makikita mo dun sa pinakahuling row kung ilan yung mga natapos. Okay, halos magkakapareho around 300. 5556 kasi yan eh. 6 yung nandun sa, yung ratio niya, 5556 yung ratio ng population. Mas mataas yung nandun sa Pfizer. Dr. Gerard, bantayan mo na lang yung chat din para sa akin kung bakit may lumabas. Teka lang, doon tayo sa previous slide ulit. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So this just shows you the local and systemic adverse events, right? Injection site pain, fever, chills, headache, etc., etc. Wala naman ditong walang unusual. Okay? Kasi ito yung reaction ng katawan natin to this, the same reaction that we get when we get sick. It's almost the same reaction that you get when you get vaccinated kasi parang tinetrain yung katawan mo eh. So pero dahil mas mas less yung viral insult during vaccination because of the process. Ito lang yung ina-expect natin na AEs. Wala namang unusual na AEs. Okay, these are actually good to see because it shows that the vaccine is working, right? The vaccination is working. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay. So what this picture tells you, okay, if you will look at the graph, so ito yung mga anti-spike IgG values, okay? From day 0, so ibig sabihin nun, tapos na yung primary booster, tapos buboost siya, di ba? So day 0 ng boosting. Tapos day 28, yung next row is yung day 28 after boosting, right? Tapos yung graph na yan doon sa day 28, sinegregate lang natin doon sa baba para makita natin yung data doon sa 18 to 60 years at saka 61 years and older. So makikita nyo dito yung third dose na tinatawag natin sometimes or tawagin natin na booster para klaro, 6 months after the 2 doses of CoronaVac. So CoronaVac yung primary dose shows substantial increase. Makikita mo dito, di ba? Around 10,000 dun sa day 0. Pagdating dun sa day 28, almost pumapalo na siya ng 1 million. Okay? Yung CoronaVac, makikita mo, mas mababa siya ng konti compared dun sa tatlo. Pero tumaas pa rin siya compared dun sa primary dosing. Okay? So yung makikita, ang take-home message dito, yung heterologous booster with J&J and AstraZeneca at saka Pfizer shows higher immune boost, right? Compared to the homologous dose, which is Corona. Okay? Yung heterologous boost, makikita mo dun sa older adults, yung sa 61 years and older, mataas din siya eh. Actually, it's 8 to 22-fold higher than for the heterologous dose compared to the homologous dose. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So this one is also a good graph to look at. Okay. Again, it's separated. So these are pseudovirus neutralizing IC50 na titers. Dito sa left slide. So focus muna tayo dun sa left slide. So makikita nyo dito after boosting, right? These are actually, kaya may linya yon kasi naka-compare yung after booster dose na values dun sa actual person, dun sa value nung tao before boosting. Okay? So kung yung makikita yung dotted bar is yung limit of detection. So kung mababa na siya masyado, ina-assume na lang natin ang value ng default value ng 20. So makikita nyo after the primary dose, mababa siya, tas tumaas siya. Tumaas sila lahat actually pagdating dun sa booster dose. Yan ang take-home message dito. Makikita nyo yung boosting types, lahat sila tumaas, maski dun sa segregation ng 18 to 60, tapos 61 years and older para dun sa FRNT na 50 na assay. Okay? Tapos it also shows that the heterologous booster regimen was superior to the homologous booster dosing, which we saw in the previous slide. Okay? So overall findings and conclusions, so yung the antibody levels were low before administration of the booster dose. Nakita nyo yun dun sa isang slide, di ba? Mababa na siya. Actually, mas mababa siya dun sa limit of detection. Okay. So only 20.4% of the adults aged 18 to 60 years old had detectable neutralizing antibodies. Just only 8.9% of the older adults, 60 years plus, 61 years and above, have detectable antibodies. So nakita nyo dun sa linya-linyang ganun, most of the population nag-exist dun sa pinakamababa, dun sa 20 na default. Okay? Tapos tumaas siya after the booster. Okay. All 4 vaccines, AC, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, J&J, and Sinovac, administered as a 3rd dose, definitely induced a significant boosting via the binding and neutralizing antibodies and improve in protection against infection. Okay, next slide. Okay, Dr. Gerard, your go.
Okay, so napansin niyo, no, our topics really refer to looking into efficacy and also the responses of the immune system to different types of boosters that are given to previously vaccinated individuals. So in this set of slides, this is actually a study done in UK, no, for a total of around 3,500 study participants that look into the effects of 7 types of COVID-19 vaccines that are being used as boosters for patients or vaccinees who received either Astra or Pfizer, no? So ang ginawa dito sa study na to, the 3,500 patients or vaccinees were divided into 3 groups, and in each 3 groups they were given different types of COVID-19 vaccine boosters at merong isang control na hindi COVID-19 vaccine. So for Group A, ang binigay sa kanila ay Novavax, Astra, and half dose of Novavax, and lastly yung control nga yung meningococcal vaccine or ACWY. No? Huwag nyo na lang isipin yan, but this is we call this the control vaccine. Sa Group B, binigyan sila ng Pfizer, Valneva, a half dose of Valneva, Janssen, and the control vaccine nga po, no? And for Group C, they were given Moderna, CureVac, and Pfizer, no? So it's worth noting that Valneva and CureVac are not available in the Philippine COVID-19 vaccination program, so that we only have and even Novavax, no? So we only have Astra here and Pfizer and Janssen, Moderna as part of our COVID-19 vaccination program. So ano ang gustong tingnan nila dito sa 3,500 patients? Gusto nilang tingnan kung yung anong binigay sa kanilang COVID-19 booster, kung ito ay they are still safe and they will elicit side effects na mataas, no, yung reactogenicity, or gusto rin nilang ultimately makita if this different type of COVID vaccines boosters will also elicit high antibody response against COVID-19, no? So what they saw in this study was that for the safety profile, for those who were given, for those who were previously vaccinated with Astra or Pfizer, there is a high reactogenicity for Moderna when Moderna was used as the booster vaccine. And also there's high reactogenicity for Astra when it is used as a booster for Pfizer main regimen. And for Janssen also, a reactogenicity after Pfizer regimen. No? So when we say reactogenicity, it's the reaction of our vaccines. No? So ano naman yung example ng reactogenicity na to? It's actually fatigue and pain, no, that were elicited and noted as the most common solicited adverse events following the boosters, no? And usually itong fatigue and pain are experienced by among the younger population at 30 to 69 years of age, more than those experienced in the older population, like those who are more than 70 years of age. So let us look into the results of the booster vaccinations in terms of increasing the antibody responses against COVID. No? So the measure here is the spike IgG geometric mean ratio, or GMR. No? Actually, this is just another presentation of measurement of the antibody level in the boosted individual. No? And you will see that for those who previously received Astra and given Moderna as their booster, there is an antibody response, no, which is 32.3, and also even with other boosters, no. And for Pfizer primed individuals, this is the result of the antibody response, no. There's a note of response in the half Valneva group and also in the Moderna group, no. And the study conclusion here in these boosters using 7 COVID-19 vaccines, the conclusion was that all study vaccines boosted antibody and neutralizing responses after Astra, no? And all except one after Pfizer. So meaning to say all 7 were able to elicit a positive response for patients or vaccinees who previously received Astra, and 6 of the 7 also was able to boost the antibody response in patients or vaccinees who received Pfizer. Okay, so we proceed now to the WHO SAGE recommendations, the more general recommendations, and this will be discussed to us by Dr. Gani again. Thank you.
Salamat, Dr. Gerard. Okay. Hey, just wanted to check with the DOH team on our time. So it looks like we're running over. So I'll try to reduce the WHO to a couple of slides. Is that correct?
Hello, Doc. Yes, you can please proceed with the slides. I think we have about 10 to 15 minutes left for our presentation. So please go ahead.
Okay. May oras pa tayo for the questions afterwards?
Yes, Bob. Yes, Bob.
Okay. All right. So I'll just go through the WHO recommendations, right, for the Janssen vaccine. So just going back, so this was first issued in March 2021 with a single dose trials. Okay, this is when they decided that they were going to, for the ENSAM-1, the one-dose trial, it's a phase 3 efficacy trial. That's when Janssen decided to explore the logistical advantage of having a single dose for wider distribution. Okay, so it showed here. Oh, hold on, Dr. Gerard, back ulit. Okay, it showed here that a single dose of J&J protected against moderate to severe COVID-19. Okay, now with an onset of 14 to 28 days after administration, with an efficacy of 67%. And vaccine efficacy against severe or critical COVID-19 is at 77%. An onset na 14-day onset and 85% for the onset at 28 days. So dito din natin nakita na pag mas mahaba yung onset, mas tumataas ng efficacy yung konti. Okay? The vaccine efficacies are similar in different gender, age, and ethnic groups. Wala dito yung children population, okay, yung under 18. Wala pa tayong EUA para sa Janssen for the pediatric population. Okay, so There's plans from the different regulatory agencies worldwide to conduct such. Pero wala pang data galing doon. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Just to look at the variants of concern. So when this study was performed in the US, the newly emerging variants of concern weren't present at that time. Okay. So yung VE, yung vaccine efficacy, which I'll call VE from here on, 14 or more days after vaccination is 74%. We're talking about single dose for moderate to severe COVID-19 and 78% for severe to critical COVID-19. Okay. Tapos sa South Africa, dun sa beta variant, 52% moderate to severe, tapos 73% against severe COVID-19. Tapos sa Brazil, where a variant from the P2 lineage was predominant, efficacy was 68%, again, from moderate to severe, tapos 88% against severe critical COVID-19. So as you saw in previous vaccine presentations and in the previous data that was presented, yung neutralizing and binding antibodies increase, okay, over time, approximately 3 months post-primary vaccination, and remain stable. Tapos bumababa na siya, nag-wane na siya. Is the waning response. So pag imaginein mo lang yung graph, unvaccinated, tapos vaccinated, tumaas siya, 3 months, tumataas pa siya, tapos stable na siya ng 6 months, tapos pagdating ng 6 to 8 months, bumababa na siya ng konti. Lalo na dun sa 65 years old and up, mas pronounced yung decline nun over time. Dito sa surrogates na nakikita natin, so yung neutralizing and binding antibodies. Hindi pa natin, meron tayong tinatawag na memory cells, yung may hugot, yun yung part ng army natin na may hugot. Pwede pa yun mag-respond, okay, maski bumababa yung neutralizing and binding antibodies. Alright? In terms of real-world effectiveness of J&J vaccines, to date, yung single dose showed 51 to 79% protection against COVID-19 symptomatic disease, tapos 60 to 96% protection against hospitalization. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. So effectiveness against hospitalization and severe disease is high for even with the single dose. This slide is a little bit busy. But basically, if you look at the table to the left, it shows the vaccine efficacy for symptomatic COVID-19, tapos yung population na tinitignan niya, tapos yung hospital admission, ICU admission, use of invasive mechanical ventilation, at saka death. Okay, yun yung tinitignan nilang population. So makikita nyo dito, for symptomatic, 51% yung kanyang efficacy, yung adjusted vaccine efficacy. Tumataas siya pagdating sa hospital admission to 73%, ICU admission almost 93%, invasive mechanical ventilation almost 89%, tapos death, 90.5%. Okay, so mataas ang efficacy ng single dose ng J&J, especially on severe to critical, at saka yung sa hospitalization and minimizing hospitalization and death rates. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Salamat, Dr. Gerard, for going through the slides for me. Okay, so this one it's from Sabler-Rolles et al. Sorry, yung booster vaccinations after J&J priming. So yung kanina yung diniscuss natin, may corona priming, di ba, yung Sinovac priming. Tapos tinignan nila yung iba't ibang dosing. So ito naman, J&J yung primary dose mo, single. Tapos buboost ka ng J&J or buboost ka ng Moderna or buboost ka ng Pfizer. Okay? So makikita nyo dito, dun sa no boost, basically walang significance. The way to read these slides is you look at you look at the labels: J&J no boost, J&J booster, Moderna booster, Pfizer booster. Tapos makikita nyo dito dun sa maliit na value na naka-underline, if you can point it out, Dr. Gerard, dun sa significance, makikita nyo dun sa, ibig sabihin nun, no significant values. Tapos pag less than 0.001 yung p-value, may significance yun. Okay. So makikita nyo dun sa boosting ng J&J versus the baseline at saka boost, makikita nyo malaki yung difference, significant yung difference. Tapos pagdating dun sa heterologous booster dose ng Moderna at saka Pfizer, mataas din, mataas yung significance. Pag dinifferentiate mo, makikita mo dun sa differentiation dun sa B. Doon nila dinidifferentiate yung iba't ibang doses, types ng doses, iba't ibang brands. Makikita mo yung differentiation doon, may difference. Okay, same with the plaque reduction neutralizing assay dun sa letter C. Okay, that's also, it shows the same trend as the S1 binding antibodies. Okay, so it shows an increasing amount. Okay, ang conclusion natin dito, maganda yung priming. Yung single dose J&J vaccine adequately primes the immune response. Thus, in the face of waning antibodies, you can use J&J, Moderna, and Pfizer as a booster dose. Maganda yung data niya pagdating, lalo na dun sa heterologous na boosting. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So we're just going through the markers, just like you saw in the previous slides. We go look at the markers of immunity, you know, how our army is working towards protecting us. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking at some of those markers. So yung marker dito, yung IFN gamma, okay? Same pa rin tayo ng style, okay? J&J only, J&J boost, Moderna boost, Pfizer boost. So makikita nyo dito, maski dun sa homologous boost na J&J lang, may significance pa rin. 0.001. So mataas pa rin yung significance na yun. Mas mataas yung significance dun sa Moderna at saka Pfizer. Tapos, between Moderna and Pfizer, yung difference niya hindi masyadong significant, pero between homologous and heterologous boost, mataas ang significance niya. And especially from the no boost, makikita nyo, mataas ang significance nung magkaroon ng booster dose. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. All right, so this just talks about the interchangeability of the other vaccines, right? We discussed the trials, right? The two trials that we discussed demonstrate a second dose of mRNA vaccine inducing 4 to 22-fold higher in neutralizing antibody concentrations than a homologous boost. Okay, J&J also has the capacity to boost antibody concentrations after a primary dose series of mRNA vaccine. Nakita niyo yun doon sa present na data ni Dr. Gerard din. So wala naman tayong nakitang major safety concerns, right? Data is still being collected on VE following the use of J&J in heterologous boosting schedules. Okay, co-administration with inactivated influenza vaccines. Okay, based on limited evidence, as you see in this slide, it is acceptable to co-administer J&J with an inactivated influenza vaccine, especially during the flu season. That would be significant. Okay. Let's just go to key messages. Okay, our key message, heterologous boosting approach, like we said earlier when we began, including the J&J vaccine, is effective in strengthening immune system response against COVID-19 variants, including Omicron. Vaccination with primary doses and booster dose are additional tools essential to our journey to a productive new normal. Just so we can answer, I know there's a lot of questions on the Omicron. If you can just go to the last slide, Doc Gerard, para ma-address na rin natin. the very last slide. Here. Okay. So this is basically the Sisonke 2 study in Africa by Gray et al. Okay. It looks at the vaccine effectiveness during the Omicron wave. Okay? So, dumating yung Omicron COVID-19 sa Africa, ito yung nakita nilang effectiveness ng J&J. So, it's a preliminary data, right? That's coming out. If you look at this table, that there's the national data and the Gauteng data. Kasi yung Gauteng, yun yung naging epicenter ng Omicron wave. Okay? Makikita mo dito, dun sa vaccine effectiveness for hospitalization, dun sa first column, right? Makikita nyo dun sa booster, 63%, right? Pag 0 to 13 days. Booster given 14 to 27 days, 84%. Tapos booster after 1 to 2 months, 85%. So dun sa Omicron wave effectiveness niya, if you look at the Gauteng area, okay, we still can't determine the ratio of Omicron versus the other variants in here. It's preliminary data, but it's looking like it's pretty effective. Dun sa booster 0 to 13 days, 93% yung VE niya after boosting. Tapos 81% dun sa second data. Okay. They have a different medium, magkaiba yung median follow-up in time dito eh. Ito 8 dun sa isa, tapos 20 days dun sa isa. So, effectiveness of homologous J&J vaccine boost given 6 to 9 months after the initial single vaccination series during the Omicron variant circulation. Ito pa lang yung mga pinakaunang data na nakikita natin for J&J. Okay? So, Dr. Gerard, if you have, we can go to the questions, I guess.
Yeah, over to our colleagues from the CMU siguro, Doc Gani. Thank you po.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Gerard.
All right, muli po maraming salamat, Doc Gani and Dr. Gerard for the very informative presentation on Janssen. So to begin our question and answer forum, I think we have a live question from Caroline Bongkin. What do we know so far about Janssen as vaccine for children? And a similar question here is there any ongoing study for Janssen to be used on the pediatric age? Doc Gani or Dr. Gerard, please feel free to answer the question po.
Yeah. Like we said earlier, like we said earlier, Caroline, wala pang EUA ang Janssen vaccine for the pediatric population. A lot of the regulatory bodies globally are planning clinical trials for the pediatric population. Okay. Pero Dr. Gerard, for pregnant and lactating women, okay naman siya, di ba?
Yeah, they can be given to pregnant and lactating women. There's no contraindication.
All right. Thank you po, Dr. Gerard and Dr. Gani. I think we have another that asks, bakit po one dose lang ang pagturok ng Janssen vaccine? Maybe any of you on this? Doc Gani or Dr. Gerard?
Yeah, as we explained earlier, it's most likely a logistical issue approach, because at that time we wanted to reach as many of the population as possible for the primary dose. So they explored when they were looking at when they saw the data from the P1 phase 1 phase 2 trials, they saw after one dose tumataas na significantly yung vaccine efficacy or yung at least yung measurements dun sa mga surrogate markers na tinitingnan natin. So they decided, okay, let's in the interest of logistics, let's look at the single dose. Dr. Gerard, any additions?
No, I think you have sufficiently covered naman, Doc Gani, no? And totoo naman nabanggit ni Doc Gani kanina, no, that the there is sufficient efficacy data na kasi for giving single dose of Janssen.
All right, thank you po, Dr. Rag and Dr. Gani. I believe we have a follow-up question from Carolyn. I think this is based on the presentation. Is it right to say na mas tumataas ang vaccine efficacy ng J&J given as booster also from a J&J primary series? And how long will this efficacy last?
Dr. Jared, you want to take that first?
Wala kasi sa data ko doon kay Sabrina Tano at kay Monroe ang homologous boostering with J&J. So what we have is the mix and match or the heterologous booster lang po for J&J and for patients previously given with Astra and Pfizer. So I'm not sure if it's also mentioned in other data, but so far for the Sabrina Tan and Monroe data, hindi po homologous boosters ang inaral nila doon.
Dun sa gray, tama Caroline, dun sa gray presentation, dun sa gray article, okay, G-R-A-Y, baka kasi sabihin nila gray, G-R-E-Y, hindi na siya black and white, no? So dun sa gray article, meron dun homologous boosting, okay? So makikita mo, based on the markers, tumataas yung booster dose, no? Yung at least yung marker amounts nung immune system tumataas. Pag nakita mo din dun sa Gauteng study, dun sa Sisong Ketuna study in terms of vaccine efficacy, kasi pag tinignan mo na yung vaccine efficacy, punta ka na sa real world eh. Tinitingnan mo na yung pag nag-vaccinate ako dito, ilan ba dyan yung lumalabas na symptomatic or hospitalization, etc., etc. Mataas din yung effectiveness nun dun sa study na yon, dun sa study ng kay Gray, di ba? So we expect that the efficacy will rise even with the homologous, will increase even with the homologous dose, right? How long will the efficacy last? That's a good question, right? Right now, we're still studying the data. The science is still continuing to evolve. What we know is that after the primary dosing, right, the efficacy wanes, especially after 6 months. So out of an abundance of caution, we would like to dose to keep the efficacy, to keep the army in the bodies up and running, to keep them trained. So we will definitely, so everybody globally, all the scientists are looking at what do you call this, durability, the durability of the boost, and then we'll make adjustments as we see fit. And that's the beauty of science, right? It's not guaranteed, but it continues to evolve, right? We continue to study it and we continue to make adjustments based on the data, right, that we see, based on the peer-reviewed scientific data that we see. Okay?
Yeah, dagdagan ko lang yun, Kim and Doc Gani, no, that
Gani.
tuloy-tuloy pa rin naman yung pag-monitor ng data ng mga manufacturers, no. And if you notice in our presentation, yung efficacy data napuputol hanggang week 2, week 4, but we know that there's ongoing surveillance monitoring from the manufacturer. So sooner or later, we will have new updates from them.
All right. Thank you po, Doc Gerard and Doc Gani. I think we're down to our last 2 questions. I would like to believe that the presentation was so good that we've answered most of the questions raised by our media partners. And for our next question, I believe we've tackled this in the slides already, but just to reiterate it to the public, what is the efficacy rate of J&J vaccines versus Omicron variant BA1 and subvariant BA2? Can we say that Janssen demonstrate a very strong protection versus the Omicron variant? I know we've tackled this earlier in the slides and we've delved on this, but maybe it's better to reiterate to the public that Janssen has this efficacy against Omicron.
It certainly looks like it.
Doc Gani or Dr. Raj?
Yeah, it certainly looks like it, no? Na tumataas ang vaccine efficacy ng boosting using J&J, at least based on the Sisonke 2 study that's coming up. It's preliminary data. You can see the Omicron wave was pretty quick, right? So the data for the effects of that, you know, which certainly gets delayed, right? When the wave hits, we can only see the data afterwards. It looks like Janssen is doing a pretty good job, right? At vaccine, with its vaccine efficacy against the Omicron variant, especially dun sa Omicron wave. So hindi pa natin nakikita kasi hihimayin mo yun eh. Hihimayin mo kung ilan dun yung Omicron, ilan dun yung Delta, ano yung proportion. Hindi pa natin siya alam. Hindi pa natin siya, wala pa tayong values para dun. Pero may values tayo na dun sa epicenter, pag tinignan mo yung vaccine efficacy, mataas pa rin siya for J&J. Dr. Gerard, any additions to that?
Yeah, maybe just an emphasis then in the study of, I think it is still sinsokipuli naman that those who were previously vaccinated in South Africa would, ang nakita nila doon sa data in hospitals, there's an early decoupling of data. Ibig sabihin, tumaas man yung Omicron, pero yung kanilang hospitalizations ay bumaba, yung mga severe and critical cases. So yun ang meron tayong information din sa ngayon. Siguro just to emphasize on the vaccination and presence of Omicron in South Africa, it has been demonstrated din naman na on prevention of the severe and critical COVID disease.
That's a really good point to take home from Dr. Gerard. Glad you pointed that out, because globally, you know, we see infection rates going up, the number of cases, positive cases going up, right? But the hospitalization rates and the ICU admissions are declining. So that's good. That's good news. That means the vaccine is working, and also probably the Omicron variant, that evolution of the virus is more mild than the other variants. Okay, but that's good data. That's good data, and it looks like Manila is now heading towards level 2, which is really good news. The vaccination rates in Manila are pretty high. Diba? We're hearing data from our colleagues in the VEP. The hospitalization rates are also low, 50%. That's pretty good. That's really good news. All right, so that the vaccines are working.
All right. Thank you po, Doc Isgani and Dr. Ard. On that note, I would like to apologize to our media partners as we have an influx of questions, but we are pressed on time. And we hope to answer your questions in our next Kapihan session. But before we end, siguro I'd like to ask Doc Gani and Dr. Ard to maybe share their final messages to our viewers and the public on, and probably our call to action po sa ating mga kababayan. Maybe Doc Gerard, you could start po.
Yeah, siguro just an emphasis that among the VEP members, I think I am the most junior member, but I would say that it's my first time to actually see that there's a strong cooperation between and among the systems and the governments, not only locally, but even globally. There's a strong movement from rich countries, from international research organizations and scientists and professionals to really come up with safe and effective vaccines, not just to have a step ahead of COVID-19 pandemic. No, so our message is, if we really are wanting to go back to the pre-pandemic times, and that is going back to normal, I think that it is our duty as a Filipino citizen really to contribute to this, no? And how do we contribute to getting back to normal is through participating in our vaccination program. The vaccination program has been really carefully studied by several sectors in our society, by different organizations and agencies, no? And we are happy, in fact, that medyo tumataas din yung ating coverage, no? So yeah, you get your vaccine and your booster when it is your time to get them in your nearest vaccination sites. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Gerard. So just jumping off from Dr. Gerard's points, right? You know, if you remember 2 years ago, Gen 30, as pointed out by Dr. Jean Solante, one of our colleagues at the vaccine expert panel, we had our first patients, COVID-19 patients. You know, they were from Wuhan, China. They went from Boracay to Dumaguete to Manila. That was 2 years ago, diba? And what was crazy at that time, when it started spreading, when the COVID-19 started spreading, it wasn't just like a regular flu, not regular colds, because we had complications that included respiratory distress, you know, and that required oxygen supplementation. It required mechanical ventilation for some, and it really hit a lot of people, including, I know some of your friends and families, you know, have been hit pretty hard by COVID-19. And what that did was it reduced our confidence. Hindi tayo, nag-retreat tayo eh. Lahat tayo nag-retreat. Pati yung mga bata nag-retreat. Nandun na sila sa bahay, online. Di ba, nawalan tayo ng confidence eh. Yung magtataho at saka yung nagtitinda ng barbecue na banana barbecue, hindi na rin siya makapagtinda. Hindi ka rin makabili dahil natatakot ka, di ba? So our path to the new normal, or to the whatever that new normal is going to be, because it looks like we're going to have to live with this virus for a while, right? Is, you know, wash your hands, 20 seconds, dalawang happy birthday, dalawang maligayang bati, di ba? Wear your masks, right? Especially in indoor settings. Practice physical distancing, but stay socially connected, okay? And then get vaccinated, get your boosters, right? This will help us get to the next stage. It will increase our confidence, right, to live with COVID-19 and make our communities productive again. So pag may lumalabas na magtataho dun sa tabi, pwede ka na bumili kasi confident ka na eh. Dahil protektado ka na eh. Malaki yung difference na yun kung titignan mo, di ba? Na minsan isipin mo, ayaw ko bumili dun. Pero mataas yung, lalo na sa gig economy at saka sa small businesses at saka sa education natin. The kids need to go back to school. We need to give the teachers and the students the confidence they need so they can go back to school. We need to get the confidence back so we can all go back to our communities and make them more productive again. So get boosted, get vaccinated, stay safe, mabuhay, at ingat pa din lagi.
Thank you, Doc Gani and Doc Gerard. I couldn't have said it any better. Maraming salamat po sa inyong messages and reminders sa ating publiko. And yun nga, let's do our part in curbing this pandemic by getting vaccinated, following minimum public health standards, and of course, following health protocols, protective health protocols for ourselves and for our family. And yun na nga po, maraming salamat, Doc Gani, all the way from the Netherlands, and of course, Doc Gerard Belima, for coming and joining us in this program. And lastly po, maraming salamat din po sa ating media partners and viewers mula po sa DOH. Maraming salamat, and we'll see you po next time. Doc Gani, Doc Gerard, maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po sa lahat.
Maraming salamat din. See you sa Wednesday, Dr. Gerard.
See you, Doc Gani.
Ingat.